Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man's Quarter channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm reading the chapter out of my Bigfoot Terror Tales book, Vol.1. And this is the second to last story in this book, so we're almost done with this one. And the chapter out of this book is called STI'YAHA. That's STI'YAHA by E.M. Maccallum. Let's get into it, shall we? Behind Jared's house was the highway. Beyond that was the vast, untouched forest belonging to the Maccallum family, a very old family that had owned that land since the founding of the town back in 1876. Golly, that's a long time ago. Jared sat in his backyard on the kiddie swing. He was almost too big for it now. His long legs cramped up, and each time he swung too hard, the entire swing set threatened to tip over. Clutching the rusted chains, he watched the cars zip past their headlights, blinding at first, but he forced himself to stare into their glare even as they roared by. It left inky smudges in his vision as he forced on the receding red brake lights. Palms sweary, he adjusted his grip on the chains. Licking his lips again, he nervously opened his mouth to say the word and felt his insides crawl, stopping him cold. What if he did it wrong? What if he never found Mark? He could be dead. After all, it had been a year. Having felt so self-assured only an hour ago, Jared began to second-guess his decision. Glancing over his shoulder at the side of the house, he saw the small scratch mark in its wood siding just below his bedroom window. The blood was gone, at least through its memory haunted him nightly. Shaking his head, he gripped the cold chain until it hurt his palm and focused on the highway. Tonight was the night. He couldn't chicken out now. The kids at his junior high school wouldn't be any kinder tomorrow. His parents wouldn't be any less distracted. His friends wouldn't be any less missing or dead. No, tonight was the night. The comforting weight in his pocket renewed his sense of bravado. It was his favorite pocket knife, and at his hip he had his dad's fillet knife looped into his belt. It was the best he could do without raising suspicion. He wiped his damp hands on his jeans, cleared his throat, and took a deep breath. His voice cracked as he said, STI'YAHA! On the highway, a horn blasted, drowning out his voice. Grinding his teeth, he abruptly stood up and stalked to the chain-link fence separating his home from the highway. There never used to be a fence there. This had always been a safe place to live, but events spanning as far back as 8 months ago had changed the face of the town. The peaceful, tiny community grew wary and untrusting to Jared's limited knowledge. The worst that had ever happened in the tiny community was drunk driving and a few fender benders before this. No one ever died or disappeared, not since his dad was a kid. He said a tourist drowned in the river when he was high and the rapids were dangerous. The chill in the summer air made goosebumps rise on Jared's flesh, despite the sweat stains under his arms and against his back. Curling his fingers into the fence, he glared across the highway, further from the house, so as to not wake anyone. He said, STI'YAHA! For the past 7 days, Jared had sat on the little swing and watched the highway. He wondered where his friend and neighbor, Mark Rabbit, could have gone. Mark vanished one night right out of his bed. No sign of a struggle or hint of a prank. It was like Mark to be gone so long. His parents said they came downstairs the next morning there back door was wide open and Mark was gone. There were no sign of a struggle. He didn't even take his shoes. I can say that a Bigfoot probably saw him and possibly opened up the door and grabbed him when he was near that area. But then what did he do with him afterwards? I don't know. It's already sounding disturbing. The phenomenon naturally gripped the small town in a vice, with gossip spewing from every corner, like the time Clark Henderson knocked up Jessica Dahmer, who turned out to be his cousin, who had been given up for adoption. You see sometimes on the news that a long lost either sibling or relative comes back into your life, but then you did not know they were kin to you, and then you accidentally end up dating them and knocking them up. It always does become a huge topic for all the gossiping people. The hair salons, coffee shops, and stores buzzed with speculation and hearsay until Jessica's family moved away after the abortion. The first day Mark was gone, Jarrett was convinced he was playing a prank. Mark used to wander onto the Maccallum's land and start campfires, then leave them from people to discover. It was bad enough everyone thought that land was haunted. The Maccallums had a reputation of being misers through every generation. Some folks said they could control Bigfoot to do their bidding and kill those that crossed them. And the ghosts of those who passed still supposedly haunt the acres of trees. Whoa. Imagine if in real life somebody can actually control a Bigfoot. It'd be amazing to see, but I don't want to get on that person's bad side. Because you definitely do not want no Bigfoot being told by somebody else to come after you. Jared often told the story to his little sister and her friends on sleepovers. It was hilarious when he and Mark would sneak outside the house to his sister's window and howl and snarl just to hear the shrieks and screams until Jared's mom would come racing into the room. Frowning, Jared knew it wasn't just a story anymore, maybe a little off, but Bigfoot was real. It had all started when they saw the drunk. Brendan spotted the man first. He was staggering half a block down from the 7-Eleven, nudging Mark with his bony elbow. He nodded to the street lamp. The older man was hugging it as if it was a lover. After a heave, he vomited just off the curb. The tattered dark trench coat and cowboy hat hid his identity from view. Mark wrinkled his nose. Who's that freaking guy behind them? Mrs. Donaldson hissed. Jarrett kicked himself for not saying it first. Mark was always quick that way. It was a new thing amongst the boys. Swearing or any word resembling a swear was cool. It was even cooler when an adult was present to cast the icy stare of disapproval. I wouldn't say it's cool. I would go ahead and apologize to my parents right then and there if they caught me swearing. What snagged bonus points was that Mrs. Donaldson was the elderly woman who taught their grade 8 English class. Her glares promised word getting back to their parents. Not that it mattered to Mark. His parents were rarely bothered by what he did, no matter how bad. Brushing past them with obvious distaste, he ducked inside the 7-Eleven. It was the only store open this late. Everyone else closed their shops at 6. Moving the slushy to his other palm, flexing his chilled fingers, Jared answered, "Looks like a new bum was kicked out of Kimberly." Mark flashed a devilish grin. "Should we throw rocks at him and see if he can chase us?" Brendan groaned. "I just ate that hot dog and bag of chips, man. He'd catch me for sure and puke on you." Mark added before pretending to wrench on his friend. Despite the dimness from the street lights overhead, Jared could have sworn he saw Brendan pale a little. The three adolescents watched as the man pushed himself off of the lamppost and stumbled into the alley. Before Jared or Brendan could react, Mark bolted forward. Jared fumbled, almost losing his slushy as he sprinted after his friend. "Mark," Brendan said, the pubescent squeak penetrating his command, making it lose its value. Mark didn't stop. He wouldn't even if Brandon had a booming voice like his dad. Skidding to a stop at his first shadows of the alley, Mark squinted. "Hey, you," he shouted. "You know you're trespassing, right?" Trotting up beside his friend, Jared peered into the dark, allowing his eyes time to adjust. Curled up against the wall, his arms around his knees, the ragged man sat on the cold ground. The large brimmed cowboy hat gave him away amongst the shadows. Small pools of water from the recent rainstorm still offered a glitter or two from the lights outside the alley. "Hey," Mark advanced into the shadows while Brendan and Jared lingered on the fridge, still skeptical. Brendan whispered to Jared, "I think it's Kenny Grizz again." "No, dummy," he paused, frowning. His chance to extend his speech with a swear was tarnished. "Kenny's still in jail, remember?" He turned back to the alley in time to see Mark wheeling a foot back to boot the silent man on the ground. Jared and Brendan both prepared themselves to run with a deft hand snagged out from the tatters of the drunkard's cloak and caught Mark's foot. With a shout of surprise, Mark lost his balance, his arms windmilling wildly before crashing to the concrete. Brennan didn't hesitate. He took off down the street. The surge of fear almost sent Jarrett launching after him, and if it wasn't for Mark, he would have dropped the slushy, splattered it over his shoes and the pavement before darting into the alley, shouting, "Let him go!" He already had a hand in his pocket, ready to wield his rusty pocket knife. Unexpectedly, the man let go. Yeah, this is why you don't mess with bunkered people in real life, because you never know if they got a weapon or they might have violent tendencies and attack you. Mark crab walked backwards, his expression changing from stunned to furious. Standing, he brushed himself off. "I'm wet." Jarrett reached down for his friend, holding him up by his arm. "You will leave me alone," the man groaned in an even, slow tone. Not a single slur marred his speech as he lifted his chin. It definitely wasn't Kenny Grits or anyone Jarrett knew from town. The man was a Native American, which wasn't uncommon. The reserve was only a few kilometers to the west, but Jarrett knew most of them who came into town. It was a small town, after all. He had never seen this man in his entire life. Mark was about to protest when the man was on his feet. It was a swift movement, almost a blur, when he grabbed Mark, spinning him around and slapping a hand over the boy's mouth. Stifling the scream, Jared began to charge forward when the man froze him with a venomous stare. Something in the dark, shimmering eyes warned him to fall silent. If Jared hadn't glanced over his shoulder to see if Brennan had come back, he might never have known why he should keep quiet. Across the street, he could make out the outline of a very tall, broad figure, hunched slightly, with arms longer than most. It was wearing an exaggerated dark brown fur coat. I don't think it's a guy wearing a fur coat. It's probably a Bigfoot. It had to be the tallest man Jared had ever seen. It was moving fast, wearily swinging its head from side to side. Sprinting through a streetlight, Jared realized it wasn't a fur coat. Told you. Long tufts of fur covered it from head to toe, fluttering with each movement, as if made of silk. Each step was calculated as if it was preparing to run or attack. Jarrett couldn't do anything but stare as the figure strode quickly from his view. Its head was turned away from them, so he couldn't catch a clear view of its face, but the stature was undeniable. Snapping his head back to the stranger, Jared whispered, "Was that Bigfoot?" The moment the words escaped his mouth, he knew he sounded crazy. Marcus stopped struggling, but his body was turned so he couldn't see what Jared had just witnessed, which was the worst thing that could have ever happened. If anyone on this planet needed to see Bigfoot, it should have been Mark. He had been obsessed with the beast ever since they were little. He had tons of books and videos on him. Sounds like my type of guy to hang out with, since I'm a huge fan of Bigfoot as well. Let him see, Jared said. If we get to Rob Street, maybe we can still. The stranger hissed, "You will not. The STI'YAHA is not to be toyed with. It must have hunted me here." The last part he seemed to be saying mostly to himself, his eyes wide and alert, unlike that of a drunk. "Why were you puking back there?" Jared asked, hoping he released his friend. Shifting on his feet, he wondered if he could kick him in the junk from here. That would release Mark for sure. Thought he recalled how fast the man was. "I was running," the stranger said. "I thought I had left it behind. Get home now and don't come out." You should listen to that guy because he knows that this beast is not nothing to mess with. But I'm going to stop it right here at this point and pick up with part 2 sometime later this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more book reading content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Quarter channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and I said that's a wrap, and that's day, y'all.